Today we're going to change the gear oil in both the front and rear differential as well as the transfer case in my 2006 Toyota Tundra and talk about establishing a baseline service in your Overland vehicle. Coming up.
A bad day. That's the
Yeah! Hi, I'm Drew, and this is Evergreen Overland. On this channel, we help Overlanders outfit themselves for adventure through doing gear reviews, doing vehicle modification tutorials, and cooking tasty camp meals to share around the fire. One of the most important things in any Overland vehicle is going to be its reliability. No matter if you're going Toyota, Ford, Jeep, what have you, the first thing you're going to want to do in any used vehicle that you're going to use for overlanding is probably to establish a service record of any of the regularly scheduled maintenance that you should do to keep your vehicle operating in tip-top shape. In this video series, we're kind of going through some of the components of a vehicle that you might want to put a little attention into, as well as performing some of those services to hopefully give you guys a little encouragement to take them on for yourself. Not only is working on your vehicle sometimes a more cost-effective option, but it also gives you the confidence, the skills, and just the knowledge of how your vehicle operates so that if something goes wrong out on the trail and you need to work on one of those components, you have a little bit of a baseline knowledge of how they work. I already did a video on me changing the engine oil in my 06 Tundra. You can find a link to that above here. First things first, when you're going to swap out the oil on your transfer case and differentials, it'll flow a little bit faster and smoother if you warm it up a little bit. I'm going to go for a quick 1 to 2 mile drive to get the oil a little heated up and park it on a level surface, and then take a temperature on the outside of the transfer case and differentials until it gets to about 100 degrees so that I know it's not too hot and it's not going to burn me, but it's warm enough to flow a little smoother. All right, this is my rear axle. It's an LSD, so it's a limited slip differential. That means you have to have a specific oil with a specific friction coefficient for your LSD. What I'm using is a conventional, not synthetic in the rear, 75W90. That's what I'm choosing to do. It's got a friction additive for the LSD in there. If you have an LSD and you're using synthetic oils, the molecular structure of the synthetics is just a smaller molecule that allows it to seep through some of the axle seals on the ends of the axle. If you happen to have any gapping in there or anything like that. I don't know how much I believe it, but I've also heard that people going synthetic can have a little chatter in the back, so I'm hoping that I have the right differential fluid in the rear. I also utilize this catch basin that you can close off and contain your oils in until you're ready to dispose of them. I just think it's invaluable in a garage to have a nice catch basin like this that just keeps all your oil contained in one spot. Now, in each one of these 3 services we're going to perform today, there's both a fill plug and a drain plug down here. What you always want to do with any sort of swap like this is make sure that you can crack the fill plug first, because if you can't crack the fill plug, there's no point in taking out the drain plug because you're not going to be able to fill it back up with oil. All right, guys, come loose. There you go. Always have some nice shop rags. If you open this top one, it'll release and flow even smoother. This is the fill cap, not magnetic, and it's got a little copper washer. This is the drain plug, and you can see at the end here, it's just got some sludge built up right here. A little bit of shaving for sure, but nothing crazy. You just want to inspect this to make sure there's not any big chunks and all that kind of stuff, and then clean it off. And this has more of a crush washer to it that I believe is made out of aluminum. And I have some of these as well that I'm going to replace it with. I've seen a lot of people replace the actual plugs themselves. That just seems kind of pointless to me. I'm going to use the plugs and replace the washers. All right, I got my Valvoline oil, got my assortment of different crush washers, and I got my fluid pump right here. And this is basically so you can pump the fluid up and out of your jug and into the little fill hole there so that you're not going like this and having to do it like this. It's not much of an issue in the back because there's a decent amount of headspace above it to tilt the bottle, but when we get up to the Tcase and the front differential, it becomes more of an issue. Right here I have my new aluminum crush washer. I'm going to take the old one off. You can see the difference, and this will crush down onto this, forming a nice tight seal once it's compressed. And get my magnetic bolt threaded back on there. And from me looking this up, it looks like I'm going to torque these bolts to 39 foot-pounds. And this is going to take 3.54 quarts of oil. Now on the last one, I'm going to take about half of this quart, and then it's going to be full and ready to be capped off as soon as you see a dribble just start to come out of the hole here. That's how you know it's full. There we go. All right, let's gather all these tools up from the back end and slide underneath the center of the truck. So if you follow your drive line up from the rear axle, you're gonna come to your transfer case right here. And just like the rear differential, you have a drain plug and a fill plug, both in 24 millimeter. All right, that one came loose pretty simply. This is a 75 W90 full synthetic that I'm going to be using up in my transfer case here. Got my crush washer on. Clean that up a little bit. Thread this guy back. I'm going to torque that down to 39. Start filling this. All right, this is full the same way that the back one is. You just pump it in until you see a little bit start to leak out. There we go. All right, so that's about it for the transfer case. All right, to get to the diff in the front, you're gonna wanna drop the front skid plate. 2 12s in the rear, 3 13s up front. You follow your tire to your axle, to your differential right there. That is the fill plug. This one's different. It's not a 24 millimeter socket. It's a 10 millimeter hex bit right here. Get some of this dust and dirt and debris away so it doesn't want to fall into the differential. Kind of goofy getting the leverage to crack it loose, but camera down. All right, now let's reposition to see the drain plug tied underneath the front end. For reference, here's the fill plug. The drain plug is right down here. Again, this is a 10 millimeter hex socket. Get it seated in there nice and good, and then just break it loose. There we go. You've got a little bit of shavings, but nothing too crazy. Clean that all off. Now, what I'm not seeing on this is any sort of washer around it. Either it didn't have one, and whoever did this at one point forgot to put it on, or there's still a washer. There it is. A new washer on here. Feed this. Got my fill plug back on there. Now, what I do like to do after I make a mess and get oil over everything is just clean it off with some brake cleaner so that I can monitor that down the road to make sure it's not leaking without having the residue of the oil just sitting there kind of giving me a false reading. Last thing we really have to do is bolt the skid plate back up. All right, there you have it. Those are the procedures I use to do the fluid swap on the transfer case as well as the front and rear differential in my 06 Tundra. Now, I will say another thing that you might want to address in your vehicle is checking out if you need to do a service or a flush on the transmission. The transmission fluid in my truck is supposed to be kind of like a lifetime transmission fluid in the idea that it's sealed, it doesn't really have a dipstick to test it and all that kind of stuff. So honestly, on these trucks, I've heard horror stories of people doing tranny flushes and then immediately after, you know, that might have dislodged something that plugged something else or screwed up a sensor or whatever it is, and the tranny goes out on it. So I'm opting to not do a transmission flush on my truck specifically, but you may want to take a look at the service recommendations for your vehicle and see if that's something that you want performed. I'm going to throw a link down in the description section of this video just to anything I can think of I used in the video. I hope you got something out of the video, and I'd really appreciate it if you liked the video and then subscribe to the channel to be notified when I put out a new video each week. Definitely, if you have any questions, throw them down in the comment section below. I love interacting with you guys and kind of starting to build out this community. And if you want to follow me on other platforms, you can hit me up over on Instagram. It's at Evergreen Overland, as well as evergreenoverland.com. Go over there, throw me an email and a contact form, and I'll basically in the future be able to notify you guys when I have specials or discounts or whatever when I'm working with manufacturers. That's the goal in the end. I definitely encourage you guys to take on some of the challenges of servicing and maintaining your own Overland rig just to familiarize yourself with it and help give you the confidence that you're going to be able to use when you're out on the trail. I'll see you again in the next video. Have a good day.